Hi Lydia, nice to see you.
Hi, Laurel.
We've come together on Teams this afternoon. What are we here for?
Well, we thought that it might be helpful for people who are interested in the role for us to answer some questions about it. And yeah, and meet us as well.
Yeah, that's true. So on that note, hi everybody. My name is Laurel Brown. I am co-founder and director of Laurel Brown Training and Consultancy, and I have the absolute pleasure of working alongside Lydia and the rest of the Adopt London team and our stakeholders as part of the Black Adoption Project.
And I'm Lydia. I'm head of service for Adopt London North, and I'm one of the team of heads of service who cover Adopt London. We're all regional adoption agencies in London delivering adoption services for local authorities and part of the Black Adoption Project.
Lydia and I thought we would talk you through some of the questions that we've been receiving since the post went out, and hopefully that will help those of you who already know you're going to apply or who are contemplating applying, get those applications in. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get on with it. Okay, so Lydia, let me know when the screen comes up.
Yep, we've got it. So,
Amazing.
firstly, what is the Black Adoption Project? An important question. Black children in adoption have faced disparities in terms of the experience of the adoption process for a really long time. It's been a stuck problem. There have been lots of attempts to try to shift the stats that we see, but this hasn't resulted in any lasting change. And so Black children take longer to be placed for adoption. They are less likely to be adopted when they have a plan for adoption agreed by the court. That means they're more likely to grow up in foster care. So this project is an attempt to say, working together across the 24 local authorities that make up Adopt London, how can we try to do something differently, approach it in a different way, and try to actually create some lasting change. We know that despite lots of anti-racism conversations in recent years, there have been few projects or proposals that have gone on to create that lasting commitment to change. And what we really want to do in this project is to do something that where we will be able to see that legacy in years to come. We think the way to do that is to approach things differently, to look at the facts and the evidence, but also importantly to work really closely in partnership with all of the stakeholders who have lived experience or who are in our communities to try to create change. And another question that we get quite often is, why are we only talking about Black children within this project? The reason why we're focusing on Black children rather than looking generally at global majority children is because we see specific disparities for Black and mixed Black ethnicity children that we don't see for other ethnic groups within the adoption system. When we group all the children together, it actually masks the extent of the disparities that we see for Black children. So we thought it's really important to name that and have a specific focus on that area. We know that there's lots of difficulties with using the term Black, that covers many, many different identities, but it's a useful umbrella for us to talk about the aims and what we're trying to actually address in the project.
Yeah. And I mean, for us, it's been a journey,
Mhm.
trying to, define who we need to improve outcomes for and how we explain this to people. So I personally feel really proud that we've got a solid position, and it's very clear in the evidence actually why we have this position, that in particular it's about Black African, Black Caribbean children, and the communities actually that we need to be more readily available to provide home for these children. And what we've done as part of this journey is work with the community, with Black children that have been adopted, with Black adoptive families, with social workers and other staff across Adopt London, and us as a team, as a consultancy that works with organisations to try and affect complex change around inclusion, diversity, and equity. And all of these efforts have culminated in this visual on your screen. shout out to Tamara Jade Kaz for
Fantastic.
for visualizing this for us. So we have had many workshops, many conversations to develop what this is, our theory of change. And essentially this outlines the journey over the next few years and actually why we need somebody to come on
Mm,
board. So I won't go into detail. There is actually a theory of change video on the Adopt
mhm,
London website, which explains this in more detail. But the highlights, we are trying to address or achieve 5 goals. You'll see on the right in the yellow project goals, and they relate to different stakeholders or aspects. So one relates to Black families, one relates to Black children, one relates to Black communities, one relates to systems, and one relates to the workforce working with Black children, Black families, Black communities. And all that we're trying to achieve, you'll see outlined in those clouds across the
mm,
visual. So probably quite helpful to read this if you're wanting to know more
yeah.
or applying. Yeah. And the goal is the bottom right. Our absolute mission is Black children who need an adoptive family can have one. And I don't know, Lydia, you've been in adoption for many, many years. How does it feel to kind of
Mm.
finally get this project on the map and working towards the goal?
It's really amazing because it's actually an area that a lot of people feel really hopeless about. They feel like there's been so many things that have tried and we haven't been able to change the situation. And I think to actually be working now in a way that we feel we've identified things that we can change, it's realistic to change them, and we feel hopeful
Mm,
about changing this narrative that Black children, it's harder for them to be adopted. It's harder for us to find loving, safe families for them to live in when that's needed. And we really want to, well, we really believe that we can actually make a dent in this problem and change things through the project. So it feels really, really encouraging and hopeful. And that's definitely fed into lots of the passion that's behind all of the stakeholders and staff that's involved as well.
yeah, for sure. So another question that people might be wondering is why the role is needed. And if it wasn't clear from that visual, just a bit more of an explanation. So currently, the Black Adoption Project consists of Lydia and the other 3 heads of service across Adopt London. So there's 4, one for each region of London across 24 boroughs. We then have my team, myself and a project manager, and none of us, by the way, are full time on this.
Mm,
And then we have a project steering committee, which includes other stakeholders such as those who've lived experience of adoption, community members, people that work in roles in the community, and also senior leaders from children's social care. Um, and all of us are doing this as part of our jobs to some
yeah.
extent. Adopt London fund this work so far, and they fund us, but all of us are also given time in kind. But we've now got to a point where we've clarified what we're doing and we've got an opportunity to fund a role to then drive and deliver the project. And these are the strands of the project. There are some pilots that are focused on lived experience, co-creation, addressing power imbalances and really harnessing and amplifying and centering the lived experiences of the stakeholders that have to be at the heart of this project. There's some work focused on the workforce, providing, for example, safe spaces for Black staff members across Adopt London. We are doing research. We've already undertaken research. We'll be doing more research, but we also will be evaluating as many of the pilots as possible independently and in-house where necessary. And then practice is a big part of this. I talked about practice on the theory of change, but we have to be working in partnership with those who know the work best, the social workers, the
Mhm.
people supporting those social workers. Lydia just shared her experience of the journey. So there's a big focus on working in collaboration with practice, but also trying to improve practice. And then there's a big influencing piece. This is not just about the Adopt London region. What can we influence across other adoption agencies, across other children and young people sectors and systems to affect change that affects Black children, but other minoritized, marginalized children, families, and communities. So the role is needed to
Mm.
really focus and drive what is now a clear plan. Anything else missing from that for you, Lydia?
I was just going to say how exciting it is for us to actually get to this point that we have capacity for a full-time role. And all of the things that we're desperate to do, and have been lacking capacity to do. It's just really exciting that we're at the point now where with that capacity we'll be able to move things forward at a much quicker pace.
Yeah, you know. So then this segues us into this question. What exactly will the person be doing given how much?
There's a lot, yeah. We don't want to scare everybody off applying. I think the main aspects of the role will be the mobilization of our pilot projects. So we've got a whole list of pilot projects. Some of them are larger, some of them are smaller. They're all practice based, that we want to roll out. They're things that we've identified from our research and our conversation with stakeholders that we think will make a difference, and they're ready to go. We need somebody who can really pick up that mantle, drive those projects forward, in partnership with stakeholders at every step, and support us with the evaluation of those projects as well.
Mm,
So we want to really make sure that we're learning at every step of the way and pivoting when we need to, with what works and what doesn't work. You'll be, as part of driving forward those pilots, you'll be working really closely with the social work teams in Adopt London, because they obviously hold the key to the practice, and also with our adoptive families, adopted people and young people. So your relationships with our stakeholders will be absolutely crucial. You need to be really good at building relationships, developing relationships, bringing people on board. Um, this is going to be a role where you'll have relationships with a really, really wide range of people and using those throughout the work. And also importantly, speaking about what we're doing, telling different audiences, which can range from, policymakers, senior leaders, professionals, to people in the community, telling them about the great work of the project, getting them on board, because a key part of our aims is also to influence change, through sharing our learning. It's not just about what we directly do ourselves, but it's about how other people can go and create change, in the areas that they influence because of what we share with them.
mm, that's massive.
Yeah.
And also creating change and amplifying the voices of those who have been talking about and trying to push
Mm,
for change for a long time, but are seldom heard or excluded across systems. So that's a really big part of how we're approaching the project, just
yeah.
acknowledging those, traditional barriers and dynamics. Okay, so who are they working with in this role is another question that's come up.
Yeah, this is a little map that we've got of the governance structure of the project. So our steering committee are really important. We've taken a long time to build up this fantastic steering committee, who are made up of people with various different lived experience of adoption, professionals in different roles, senior leaders, ourselves, and people from the community in London as well. So you will be working really closely with the steering committee. We report to them, we show them what we're doing, we ask them to make decisions about the direction of the project, and they give us guidance and support. And then under the steering committee, we've got our stakeholder groups currently developed. We've got our adoptive parents group. That's a group of all Black adoptive parents. We work in partnership with We Are Family, who support adopters in London. And we will also be developing over the coming months adopted adult stakeholder group and young people stakeholder group, and you would be a key part of driving that work forward. Um, More broadly, you'll be working with, like I mentioned, the staff in Adopt London, and ourselves, the heads of service group, Laurel and her team, the project manager from Laurel's team, our communications staff, using lots of different skills and abilities that we've got all around us at the moment to make these pilots happen.
Yeah, indeed. So one of the people also just to mention is our evaluation partner.
Mm,
So Dr. John Wainwright from the University of Central Lancashire, he heads up a centre up there called Grace, which is focused on research around race equity. And he is our evaluation partner. So we'll be evaluating a number of the pilots, but also providing general advice and guidance and helping lead a stakeholder group, as Lydia mentioned, with researchers and analysts. So Okay, those are the main questions that we're asked. There are probably a couple of more practical things that
Yeah.
maybe do you want to speak to, Lydia, around like just
Working
contractual stuff?
arrangements and things,
Yeah.
yeah. So your role, you would be employed by Islington Council because they're our host authority for Adopt London North, but you'll be working on behalf of all the 24 Adopt London boroughs. It's a fixed term role, but if you already permanently are employed by one of the Adopt London boroughs, there's the opportunity to consider whether your employer would agree to a secondment. You can find the list of all the Adopt London boroughs on the Adopt London website. It will be a hybrid role, so there'll be some opportunity to be based at home, work from home, but you would also be expected to work from the office space. Your main office space would be in Islington, but there are other office spaces across London, and we expect that you'll be out and about quite often in various different places across London and maybe occasionally nationally as well, meeting people, getting involved with things, presenting. So you would really need to be quite flexible with your ability to do that. Lots of people are already asking about flexible working arrangements, and we can consider flexible working arrangements, but I think it's going to be on a case by case basis to answer questions because it's so specific to individual requests. So if you need flexible working, then please ask. If it's essential, then ask before you apply. If it's something that you just want us to consider, then please go ahead and apply and we can talk to you about it in more detail at interview.
Amazing. So one of the things I think is quite important to highlight is, I guess, about the person that
Yeah,
we really need. Um, yeah, who would do well in this
who
role?
do we want?
And obviously you've got the job description. If you're watching this video, you're hopefully quite interested to have got this far. Some of the key things to bear in mind. So you really do need to be passionate about improving adoption outcomes for Black children. That doesn't mean you have to have worked in adoption previously, but we do want somebody who really cares about outcomes for Black children and trying to improve um, yeah, their lives basically, and also the communities and the parents and so on in their lives. Um, I would say as a partner, you really do need to understand how to affect or approach change across complex systems, multiple organisations, multiple stakeholders. Like Lydia's just said, Adopt London North is part of Islington Council. Then there's, the regional adoption agencies, there's us. And so it's just really having those skills to keep track of the different stakeholders and us going towards that same goal.
Yeah.
There's also relationships. Relationships are key.
Yes.
We have lots of different stakeholders, as you've heard. So the person really needs to be able to form relationships, but also maintain them and recognize the different experiences. And yeah, we have, a stakeholder group for adoptive parents. We've got work we've been doing with policymakers. Different audiences require different approaches, and just being great at recognizing those different dynamics and adjusting your approach accordingly will be essential, because our success will ultimately rely on other people. We cannot do this alone. Independent working skills. So Lydia and I are
Yeah.
on are on Teams right now because we don't work in the same office, and a lot of the time we're doing stuff virtually, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. I think you really need to feel confident with managing your own time, planning your working week. There's lots of different things to squeeze in, and being able to be quite flexible with how you do that. Um,
Mm,
yeah, you need to be pretty self motivated to um, manage really this enormous amount of work and the different demands that are going to come up, because we've got high hopes for all that we want to achieve. We really do. And so
mm.
it can be very fast moving and fast paced.
Yeah, and we're unapologetic about those high hopes, because this cohort of children don't typically feature as the object of the project or the change, and so we need that energy. We need to do what we can whilst we've got that support and funding to shift the dial, as people say.
Yeah.
And actually connected to that, we need to know we are shifting the dial. So it would be really great if somebody had experience of evaluating projects or being a part of projects that are being evaluated, so you know the steps to designing and delivering with people that are leading on the evaluation, because what we want to do is create an evidence base of, yeah, this can work, like this can achieve change in this area, and scale it up, share it, or actually we tried this, there wasn't necessarily much difference made, and that's also valuable learning, but we have to evaluate to be able to get those insights.
Yeah.
Anything else you think is important, Lydia, for prospective candidates?
I don't know. I think we've covered the main things. I think
Yeah.
I think it's important to say that we're really open to the professional background that someone may have come from. There have been a few questions. Do you need to be a qualified social worker? No, you don't. We recognize that people from a variety of different professional backgrounds with different experience might be really great for this role. So
Mm.
we're really open around that. Maybe you've had experience with community work, youth work, project work. Have a close look at the job description and the areas that we're particularly looking for. But we're really open about hearing from you how you've developed those skills and experience to bring.
Yeah, for sure. And tagging onto that, we recognise that there are typically groups underrepresented in senior roles, and obviously the focus of the project is on adoption for Black children community. So we are really keen to hear from people that might identify as being Black, African Caribbean, as being care experienced, as being LGBTQ plus, having caring responsibilities, disability is another underrepresented group. So
Yeah.
please consider the role. And if you feel, give it a shot, give the
Mhm.
application a shot, basically, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I think that leads us into a good other question that people have asked, which is that if they are really interested in the project, but they can't apply for this job, the role's not right for them, what can they do to be involved in other ways?
Okay.
And this is our QR code. Can you see at the top there? If you scan that QR code, we'd really welcome you joining our mailing list, because we're going to be using that to let you know about everything that's happening in the project. And we're hoping that as things grow, there'll be more opportunities to get involved in different ways. But also, if you've got a particular passion or skill, then please do contact us using our contact details, because we will keep a list of all of the people that are keen to be involved in different ways or interested, so that we can come back to you when those opportunities come up.
Amazing. So that is pretty much everything. You can also go on the Adopt London website and see our webinars. We do learning webinars about the project and our learning. And you can also watch the video about the theory of change that I've mentioned already. So there are other ways you can kind of keep yourself informed and support our work by just disseminating those things as well. So I think, is that everything
Yeah,
from us?
I think so.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for watching, people.
Yeah, we look forward to receiving your applications.